Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Inside the Walls podcast. Alongside me is my host, partner in crime, host of the Prime Cuts of Omaha Beat podcast, Matt Patton, and the commissioner of the NAL, Todd Walkenhorst. Gentlemen, how everyone doing today? We're doing good?
Good evening. Try to stay warm.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely cold over here in Omaha, but yeah, looking forward to chatting with Mr. Walkenhorst tonight.
Well, this is the episode 131. This is the State of the League episode for the people who are new to Inside the Walls. We do this once a year. Probably we'll do another one before the postseason, before the championship game. But we get the commissioner on. Last year we had Siegfried. This year we have the new commissioner, Todd Walkenhorst. Commish, what was the journey to becoming the commissioner of the National Arena League and getting to this position? What's your goals, your mindsets, and your ideas for 2024 and beyond?
Well, appreciate you having me on here, first off, and in the coverage of our league. Besides losing a game of rock, paper, scissors and becoming the commissioner, I mean, it is long. No, just joking. It was a long journey for me. I know. I think I know Matt a little bit. My background, I made some bad career choices. I actually, out of college, started in the NFL for several years. I was with the Kansas City Chiefs in the coaching staff, video coaching with Marty Schottenheimer back in the late 90s, and then ended up in Seattle with the Seahawks for several years with Mike Holmgren around the turn of the century. And then got out of that, moved back to Omaha, and had a business background and kind of, there's a team in Omaha. So I kind of approached them about following it. And then quite frankly, it was the off season of indoor football that really got me. I mean, I know everybody's always talking about the excitement of indoor football, which it is. I mean, it's a great sport, but the business part of indoor football is just a train wreck. I mean, it's crazy, and you can see it from all the teams that come and go every year. And business wise, it was very interesting to me. And I started with them. I'll be honest, I started as an intern. I mean, I had NFL experience. I kind of went to the beef and spent some time there and worked my way up and ended up starting doing league stuff. And I brought a unique position of having football operations, what's important to football players, having quality product on the field with a business background as well. Like, we have to stay in business and keep the lights on. And, it's tough to balance that. I mean, I think we've seen that. There's a reason that, teams' longevity, unfortunately, is not as long as we'd like to see. Leagues' longevities, they come and go. And, we're fortunate in this league to have two of the longest teams in the country when it comes to this business and a lot of experience. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I spent some time in the league office and the CIF as well, had the commissioner position for a little while there, but I'll be honest, I backed out of that. It was not a good situation. That league, not surprised how that league ended. And, and when the NAL formed, you can ask Rob Storm and some of those guys. They actually asked me a couple times to come on because I wanted to make sure that this was a group of owners that had the same mindset as I did. And that's to obviously have a quality entertainment product, but I also want to do it professionally. I want to look professional. I want professional opportunity for the players, for the coaches. We know our spot. I mean, I know where these guys are in their career. Some are going up, some are going down, but I want it to be a good professional experience. And, that's what we're going to do with the NAL. Obviously, a lot of transition in all these leagues. This has been a very special year for that. But I like where we're headed, and I'm sure you got some questions about how this is all shook out here in 2024.
Well, I got questions, and we have fans that submitted questions that ask questions about those questions. So there's a couple of them coming down your way.
Absolutely.
But,
yes.
First off, when I saw your name hit the newswire that you're going to be the next commissioner of the league, I was like, okay, he has a background. I like backgrounds. I like people with backgrounds with a big 3-letter league, the NFL. When you have that background, like, I could trust someone because we know the National Football League they are the king of the sport. They are the billion-dollar corporation that everyone strives to become, but they have a model that makes them who they are.
Sure.
But when I saw you join, I was like, okay, I like the movement. When the NAL started adding some of the teams, especially Sioux City and Omaha, you bring in the foundation. Unfortunately for me, my fandom is with my local team here in Jacksonville. We were associated with NAL last year. Now we're in the IFL. But I never, I don't take that against the NAL. I still love the NAL because that was our first home when the league was born in 2017.
Yep.
A lot of things I see from this year and compared to last year from an outside observer is the communication within the league is complete 180 from what it was 6 months ago. Then again, I guarantee there's a lot of fans out there and a lot of people out there. Yes, it was chaotic 6 months ago in the National Arena League. We had teams just falling like flies before the postseason. Just as early observation, how are the 8 teams doing right now? Exactly 50 days, roughly 50 days until training camp.
Right. All good questions. There's a few questions in there. Let me start. I do want to do a shout out to Chris Siegfried and acknowledge what he did for this league. I know it's being in this position, it's very easy to judge. And, I've seen a lot of opinions on, on Chris, especially towards the end of the tenure, but I got a chance to work with him. You may remember that the CIF and AL were talking about a merger a few years ago. COVID kind of derailed that. So, and looking back, God, I wish that would have actually happened because I think that would have been very healthy for a lot of those teams. And we would have had a good situation, but it did not. But as you pointed out, it sometimes looks like it's really rough, and it is. But keeping all of those teams, I mean, you're talking about a lot of individual small businesses with their own unique circumstances. Keeping all of those together is a lot easier said than done. I mean, it's just like, whoa, why'd you let them in? Boy, it's obvious that they weren't going to, make it or whatever. That's true. But, sometimes you have to do that to help the whole, there's just so much balances. I mean, I always call it juggling bowling balls. It's a difficult thing to do. So, again, a lot of respect for what Chris did to get through the first 7 years. I know there's a lot of teams that came in and out, but that is something that you then mentioned the transparency of this league and the communications. We are working on that. When I came in here, I'll be honest, there's a lot more work to do. I mean, it was a little silent there for a little while, and there's just, again, a lot of transition going on. It was a epic off season as far as team movement, league movement, for even indoor football standards this year. This was something we haven't seen previously. It kind of reminded me a lot of, just conference realignment at the college level. It was a really shuffling of the chairs on a lot of different, leagues and whatnot. So we've got that into place. The teams that came in, and again, I'll fully transparent with you, that happened before I came on board here. So my job is to make sure that they are going to be successful and put the tools in place. And, right now I'm going through a due diligence of those teams to make sure. I mean, I got the checklist. Here's where you need to be right now. We're doing temperature checks, and I'll be frank with you. If anybody doesn't check out, they're not going to be in this league. I mean, I'd love to be like all 8 teams are going to be here. That is my plan. That's the goal. I mean, it'd be crazy for it not to be, but if it doesn't happen, we're going to find that out in advance. I'm not going to wait until, halfway through the season. That's obviously bad for everybody involved. It makes it a must-see situation. So, So the next question, well, why didn't you do the due diligence before? I can't answer that question. I wasn't here. We will do that going forward in a better way. Again, I don't know if everybody knew how this league was going to shake out. Obviously, some teams came over before other teams left. Would we have liked to seen them stay? Absolutely, but everybody had their reasons. But, the teams that came over, I was in communication with. They knew that this was a possibility too, and they were ready to accept that because, quite frankly, and Jim, you followed this for the last several years, this is a very good brand. The National Arena League, despite some of the movement that they've had for teams, has put out a very good product and is a very good brand. And then having the nets as well, just create a product that, quite frankly, is just visually appealing and looks more probably even professional. And the teams that came over were very excited to be a part of this league. And, Carolina is a team that remained. And Rob's very passionate about this league, as you know, Rob Storm. And he's been very instrumental in what I've done here and welcoming me in and giving me the tools that I need to be able to do that. And that's my directive, is to make this league solid. We will grow the footprint after this season, but we'll be solid this year. We're going to have the product that we expect out there. Again, a professional looking product. And we believe we have our spot and we will grow naturally. And the fans hopefully will enjoy what we put on the field.
Matt?
Yeah, no, that's great. Just love to hear that. I guess, like you were talking about doing some due diligence. So obviously talk about why it's important for the NAL to have organizations like the Omaha Beef, who are the longest running team in the indoor football scene, and the Sioux City Bandits as part of the league.
Well, I mean, obviously I've worked with those teams before in the league that they're in, but I don't think that there would be any league in this business that would not want teams with that sort of stability and, more importantly, experience of their staffs and owners and the expectations of the fan bases that come along with that. I mean, obviously, it gives you some legitimacy. It gives you some stability. It's a model that even, in our weekly calls and our correspondence with other teams, we turn to them to show these teams, here's, you're a newer team. Here's some teams that have done it and done it well for a long time. Again, it's not easy. If so, we'd have, several teams that have been 20 plus years, but you can probably count, on your hands how many teams in any of these indoor arena leagues have been around that long, So that experience is very invaluable. We're very happy to have that here. And we look to pass that around. And again, I think it's just kind of a cornerstone of our league now. And, we hope to have a lot more teams be as successful as them, create the fan base. Carolina's got a rabid fan base. I'm very excited to have them in. We got a couple expansion teams. Idaho, though, what Chris Reynolds is doing out there, that fan base is ready to go. We're excited to have them in here too. And then we got some newer ones. We got Colorado. They're getting everything together. And then I'll tell you the team to watch, two of the old CIF teams, I guess. Topeka, this is a team that's won one game in their history. But I've been down there. They sell the place. I mean, it's crazy, right? They're going to have a better team. I've seen some of the players that they've been signing already. And they've got good coaching staff now. But, those fans are ready for football, and people are going to enjoy going to games there, and we're happy to see that. And then that we were able to bring Enid back, the Flying Aces. They supported a team for, a couple of years in the old CIF, had some workman's comp issues and had to bail, unfortunately. But ownership, you always hear them say, hey, we hope to come back. Usually that means, thanks for everything. We'll see you later. But they were able to do it, and I'm happy that they're able to do that, because that's another great fan base that's looking forward to having that product there again.
I know we mentioned this a little bit before. The landscape of our industry has changed. Leagues collapse or dissolve. Teams move between new leagues every single year. And some form out of the ashes of the past, and others are going in their 16th or their 17th year of existence. What is your opinion and feelings about the landscape of indoor/arena football this day and age, good or bad?
Well, I think in general, there were better days of it. There's a variety of reasons for that. I mean, obviously the early days of indoor and arena were epic, and everybody's been trying to recapture that ever since. And, it goes anywhere from, less entertainment options back then to the workman's comp was a lot cheaper. There were financial reasons that it worked a little bit better back then. But, it's still a great product. And the fact that it's been around for 25 plus years, 30 years, if you count the arena leagues, is a testament to that fans want that product. So, I think you're kind of alluding. There's been some movement this year. There's been some leagues that are coming back in. And I watch the internets and whatnot. It's kind of funny. There seems to be a lot of, there's a lot of passionate fans, and that's good. I think that's a good sign. For all these leagues that are coming back and the teams that are coming back. I'll tell you, the National Arena League's position on it is, we hope that there are a lot of successful teams in whatever league. I'll be honest with you. Having successful teams and leagues is not an issue for us. The more successful teams there are, the better it is for the business as a whole. That's really how I feel about it. I might have some different problems I got to deal with down the road. Mergers or losing teams or getting teams or whatever. But those are good problems, that if the product is successful. What I know owners and fans do not like, and not naming any leagues or anything in particular, but we've seen this historically, is, teams that are coming in or leagues that are not successful, not run professionally, end up failing and burning markets or burning players or burning, fans. That's frustrating to a lot of people that have been around this game and business for a long time. So, we would love to see very successful, professionally run teams and organizations. There is not an issue for that. I know there's a league coming back that's, been around before. It existed when these leagues were around before. It wasn't an issue. It's not going to be an issue. If the Arena Football League becomes what they were originally, that was a destination for players. So we'll go analyze whatever the landscape is. We got new spring leagues. If it works for the players and that's part of their advancement, we figure that into how we deal with those players in our teams and leagues. So, to me, having good professionally run organizations, good football opportunities. Again, I spent a lot of time working in professional leagues and developing players. I want players to have those opportunities. I don't want players to have bad opportunities. And then that trickles down to obviously fans. We want them to have good markets, good experiences, good teams in those areas. So, so they do like the product no matter what league or what team it is.
I know we touched up, this is another follow-up, and then I'll let Matt ask his. Expansion's always the major topic in our sport. The rumors on social media, fans going crazy about certain teams in certain cities, either unproven markets or damaged markets. What are the benchmarks of an expansion team to be achieved in the National Arena League? What are the musts that need to happen, like availability of arena? Do you have your fields, your boards, anything? What are the benchmarks that need to happen for an expansion team to even be announced?
Yeah, we have to have, financial stability. That's the first part, and that leads to everything you just mentioned. We'll find you a field, we'll find you boards, we'll find you nets. We need, a dedicated group, and we got to be very realistic with these ownership groups, what that looks like. All of you that have been around this for a long time know that, again, this is not the NFL. It's not NFL type money. It's a labor of love. We want teams to be profitable, not lose money. And we're very realistic, with people when they come, hey, I want to own a team, what that looks like. So, we want to, and whether it's this league or previous leagues we were in, be very clear with people what that looks like and set those expectations. Now, that being said, there are markets that we would love to be in. It doesn't take a rocket surgeon to figure out I need to fill out our footprint a little bit going forward, because I got a couple teams that, are not centrally located. And for them to survive long term, we need to, expand towards them a little bit. So that will be a goal for us. We have teams that have already reached out to us, for 2025. We have them on tap. We're talking with them. Again, they need to meet those criterias. And I know all the leagues that are successful, same thing. And we are comfortable that we'll be able to have, healthy organic growth. Again, it's really up to us to have a solid product that makes teams want to come to us. And like you mentioned, that's another advantage of having teams that have long tenures, so that gives the stability of the league, and it makes teams want to come and participate in your league. And hats off to IFL. They're doing a real good job of this now, right? They have a very solid business model. They've done a great job over the years, and they're doing kind of the same thing. We know where our place is, and I think they know their place. And I won't say one's better than another, but I think we have different goals in the long run. But there's better fits for different markets, and I think it's a matter of teams finding out where that works out for them.
Well, one thing I've noticed over the years is that both IFL and NAL, we've gone through our trials and tribulations. We've had a lot of teams come and go, and the ones that have longevity are the ones that are still playing today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like experience. You got to learn from your mistakes in both leagues. That's one thing I have respect for the IFL and the NAL. They learn from their mistakes each and every year, and they improve on that the next year. And that's a sign of a healthy league, is improving on yourselves. Again, asking the same ordeal. We were talking about the ownership. And in this industry, there's a lot of people with good intentions to operate a team, and they have the financial backing to operate such team, but they get blindsided by the day-to-day operations of an organization, thus creating bad habits. What's the National Arena League? What are you doing to help these potential current owners or new owners? How are you helping these ownership groups to organize and prepare so you can have a longevity, just not get through the season, but have multiple seasons in the league?
Yeah, I mean, and that's, again, just having the experience in the league that we had. We have weekly ownership calls. I mean, that's not a big deal. Obviously, that's pretty simple. But this week in particular, we just went through and we literally, discussed each team, what they do, what's their best sources of revenue as far as marketing. How are they, creating revenue? I mean, we should share that with everybody, obviously, right? So we have teams that are more successful than others. We got newer teams. We share that information. On top of that, do we have a national sponsor? Obviously, do we want to share that? You would love to just be like, there's a magic wand. There's big sponsors out there. It's going to bring a bunch of money, and it's just going to be great. You got to grind. And I think that's really the reality. And what's really probably what a lot of people don't see is how much work these owners have to put in. And I mean, Sioux City, I don't know how many sponsors they have over the years. They're a great example of that. Omaha's done a very good job of that. Carolina's doing a very good job of that. And you have to keep those relationships. And once you have them, then, you have to deliver. I could say whatever I want during the off season, but if I don't put a team on the field in these markets and a quality product, those teams will not survive. So that's what's really important for us. We share a lot of knowledge. I got some newer owners, but again, I got owners that have been doing this for a long time as well. We're very fortunate to have that insight that we can share and really, bounce ideas off of each other and make everybody better. This league's only as good as their weakest team. And I think, that's the same for every league. So, we're going to do everything we can to raise everybody up.
One of the things I've noticed about the indoor and arena community is a healthy organization. Look at the dashboards. If they're full of advertisements, that means the local community is bought into that team. If there's blank spaces on those dashboards, that's a sign of a organization that's struggling and needs help, or is an organization that just quit.
Yep.
But Omaha is a great example. Jacksonville is a great example. Carolina with Rob Storm's a great example. You look there, you see chiropractors, car dealership, salons, barbecues, Bill and Ted's restaurant. That's the sign of a healthy operation, especially in the indoor game. Matt, sorry I cut you off, my friend. Go ahead.
That's okay. You were talking about having the established markets, and we talked a little bit about having Omaha and Sioux City, but talk about how those guys are helpful to these new owners that you mentioned. You talked about having some brand new owners, and you don't have to be specific with Ricky or anybody else, but just how how do those guys help out these new owners to make sure that those new owners are understanding what they need to be doing?
Well, again, we're in constant communication. So, we're going to make sure that everybody's in the right place. And if you're not, we're going to do what we can to help you if we can. But I think you've seen a lot of, these teams as we announced them. Some of these owners were at those locations when that occurred. And obviously some of that's a little PR, but, the bigger piece of that is actually teaching them how to do some of this. I mean, we have a, basically an instruction manual. This is how we run franchises. This is what the expectations are. I mean, it sounds very basic, but yeah, you have to, make sure you have all this stuff in place. You have to have dashboards. You have to have a field. I mean, that sounds pretty brain dead simple, but you'd be surprised, right? And then, where do we go get our money from, right? I mean, how do we sell tickets? You better be selling your tickets by now, right? And you have to work at doing that. I mean, it's not magic. It's not just, I just put them online. Hey, tickets are here. You still got to go out and sell those things. Same with sponsorships. I mean, I've never seen anybody actually, I shouldn't say that, but it's very tough to go sell a sponsorship to a company via, an ad. I mean, you're not going to post an ad and some company's going to go, okay, cool, I'm going to give them $2,000. I mean, you've got to show them value, because you're selling to another small business, and that's a lot of money to that business. You got to build that relationship. You got to grind. I mean, the teams that do this the best have sales guys, and that, in any industry. I mean, I've worked in software too. I mean, getting good salespeople is, way easier said than done. And if you get one, it's gold, right? They could go out and create a lot of revenue for you. But it's a lot of work. And that's really, I think that's where people, when people are not successful in this industry, that's where, you'll see some of that, is they don't understand or didn't realize just how much you're going to have to go out there and, boots on the ground and, shaking hands and visiting people and multiple visits, to close that deal and whatnot. It's not an easy thing. It's a labor of love, and teams have been around, have a little more advantage. You could bring them into an existing, venue and whatnot, and newer teams, it's a lot harder. You're selling a little bit more of a dream, until it becomes reality. But that's what you got to do. And it's, it's not all that glamorous, unfortunately, sometimes.
So, last season, we saw, if you don't mind, we're going to get into some nuts and bolts rules type stuff, right?
Sure.
So, one of the things that's coming up, obviously, for me being a fan of Omaha, some of the other leagues, the indoor football league and stuff like that, they don't have the rebound nets that we're going to be seeing this year in NAL. So, talk a little bit about, number one, how those nets can impact the game for fans that aren't used to seeing them. And then number two, do you think that we'll see a movement back towards that in national within this game?
Yeah, I probably should, the elephant in the room, we haven't done a real good job of really promoting this yet, but, what rules are you playing with, right? National Arena League will be playing indoor football rules, with the nets and the kicking rules basically for all the kicking. Nets are live. Everything that involved the nets, we're bringing over from the National Arena League. Otherwise, the football rules themselves will be traditional indoor football rules, which is basically the CIF. There is no Iron Man. I know there's some people that, get real attached to one set of rules or another. There's reasons for that. It wasn't just because there's more, teams that came from the indoor. It really came down to, if you watch the leagues that were doing this, it's tough to keep track of those players that come in and out. That's another element that you had to do. There's more opportunities if we have, non-Iron Man. I enjoyed the Iron Man. Obviously that's another level to the game. It's 2024. We know what, safety is a different thing now, having guys out there the entire time, it makes sense to be able to substitute them in and out. So, it is an indoor football rule book. Basically, it's the CIF rules with the rebound nets for kicking. Now, that I think is going to be a great thing. We're really looking forward to that. One of the things that was, again, I wasn't in the league last year, but I was observing and did do some radio with one of the teams. The kicking in the CIF last year was a disaster. I mean, I'll just go out there and put that out there. Conversions, whatnot. They changed those rules 2, 3, 4 point. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. I do know how it happened, but I won't get into that. But in essence, what it did was non-football people made those rules and they eliminated kicking in that league, and it just devalued kicking completely. And this corrects that real quick because, the deuces in play, on the kickoff. If you watched the NAL last year, there were teams that, if you nail that deuce, that's 2 points per kickoff, if you put it between the uprights. Otherwise, it's live off the nets. Now you got a return. If you don't put it off the nets, on the kickoff, it's a point to the other team. So you have to put the ball into play now. I think we're going to see a lot more of excitement. I think we put kicking back into the game and put a value on the kicker, which I really think is important. I'm a big fan of kicking. I might be in the minority of that. But it's the third phase of the game, special teams, and I think it's important to have that in there. To follow up on your question about the nets, I think everybody knows, that was Arena Football League. There's a patent on it. It expired, so now it's available for teams. NAL brought that back into play. I would not surprise me to see other leagues do that. If you're a bigger league, I'm not going to, name anybody, but if you have the resources to do it, obviously there's a cost to it too. So if you're one of the smaller leagues, you may not do it. But I think it's going to add an element to the game that, there may be other leagues that look at doing it. And, I think it's better. I think everybody would have done that from the get-go if it wasn't for the patents,
Well, as a fan of the sport, as an arena, I like both brands, arena and indoor, and they all have the unique, different torques in it and tweaks, and the two high motion men compared to the one. But one thing I've noticed, and I have conversations with coaches in this industry, players get a better opportunity and spotlight for scouts in the indoor version of the game than the arena game. The arena game, you just beat your one man and you're good. In the indoor game, you still got to find a way to get around safety, know how to put a ball in the placement. It's a different style of game. So I have built, I know the niche of arena and indoor are two different types, but I like the concept. But mixing the nets with the indoor game, that's nice. I love nets. And honestly, I think the nets for the indoor version of the game is something that would be very common within the leagues of the top tier leagues within the next 2 to 3 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see that.
But the NAL is the first one. NAL is the first one to do it. So
yeah, we've done a poor job of promoting that.
trend-setting.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think it's going to be very exciting. I think it is the best of both worlds. Again, it was not knee-jerk that we decided to go with the indoor rules. There was a lot of analysis, believe it or not, to that. You pointed on some of that. I think it is better for players in the long term. We've had a lot of development through whether it's, when I was involved with the CIF, the CPIFL before that. Omaha was in the IFL, obviously when that thing started, and other leagues before that. We've seen players go upstream, they do develop that skill set. Some of it's even officiating. It's easier to get officials, with this set of rules, than, arenas could be a whole different set of rules. So we don't have the resources to go, and develop a special set of officials for arena either, So, there's a lot of factors that went into it. I think it's going to be a good brand of football. And yeah, we are a little unique that we will be the first playing the indoor football rules with the arena nets. And, we may have to tweak it a little bit because we are going to be first on that. But I think it's going to be another factor in our game that fans are going to really enjoy. And obviously you walk into the arena, right? You see the nets. It's pretty cool, right? So visually it's going to be appealing, and there's going to be more action just naturally because, again, kicks are in play and those nets are live.
Also, again, we're talking about the rules and the new era NAL. I'm considered a stats freak. I know you watched some of my old shows last season, how I break down shows and break down teams and stats. Last season, the average stoppage time for replays was 5 minutes and 26 seconds. Is there anything the league is going to do to help speed up that process?
Yes. I'll be honest. I got some officiating background too. I worked with the officiating department back in the NFL days and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Not to age myself, but I was in the NFL when we brought back replay, back in 99. But replay drives me nuts for officiating because I just don't believe it's doing what they originally intended for. And the original intent was to reverse calls that were obviously missed. You know, it wasn't to go frame by frame and try to find, you know, these minute little details. And that's really what it's come down to. You know, I'm going through our rule book and our operation manual. It's actually in the NAL and the CIF operations manual that no replay can take over 3 minutes. If not, it stands, right? If you don't have trust me, I highlighted that. I'm like, we will enforce that. I mean, there's just, if you can't distinguish, you know, a blown call or a change that quickly, it's again, in the NFL, when they brought it back, you know, Mike Holmgren, who I worked for, was on the competition committee. I remember him saying, you know, we want it that if there's 20 drunk guys in a bar and they see the call and it's wrong, that they can tell is wrong, and we want to fix that call. You know, that's what the intent of it is. So we want to fix bad calls. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go and, you know, again, spend a lot of time on it. It's a fast-paced game. You know, that's the intent. But yeah, you are correct. It drove me nuts when I'd see them spend 5 or 6 minutes on a call that probably wasn't even that important, to be honest with you, too, and slows everything down. So it will be a point of emphasis with our officiating crews this year. We're spending a lot more time training our officiating crews. I know officiating at every level, needless to say, I mean, all the way up to the NFL, you know, looks like it needs work. We want to make sure we're never going to have perfect games, right? You know, I mean, that's a part of it, but we want to make sure our officials are well-versed in the rules, know the rules, have good mechanics. If they don't get calls right, it's because, you know, just you miss calls. Like, that will happen. But I don't want because they don't know the rule or they're not in the right place mechanically. So we're going to make sure that we, you know, work with our officials to do that and hopefully speed the game along and make it, you know, I don't want to be answering a lot of officiating emails during the season. You know, we want to keep it focused on the play and hopefully not the officials. That's a goal of ours.
Yeah, so throughout the years, you know, in indoor football, arena football, we've really kind of only had, you know, like the one primary camera angle where, you know, sideline upper view from down on the field. Is there any kind of work potentially behind the scenes, or can you even talk about it, to get multiple camera angles so that when they do have to do a replay, it doesn't take that 5 minutes and 26 seconds or whatever it is that's been averaging?
Yeah, we're a little handcuffed based on the, you know, the facility and, you know, the technology they have at each individual facility. Obviously, we do have, you know, a recommended, you know, 3 camera setup for every broadcast. I believe with the facilities we have, we should be having a minimum of that in the National Arena League this year. So I feel confident on that. But, you know, each venue is a little bit different. And that is another thing that's always bothered me on replay is, you know, I don't have the same experience in every venue, right? I know there's some, I mean, I remember some arenas that, you know if they miss a call in certain places on the field, there's no chance of it getting reviewed or overturned because you can't see it, right? So, you know, so that's kind of like, to me, that's not a fair thing. But, you know, our goal is to have, like you said, at least the 3 cameras. It's pretty obvious. You have the high center camera and then 2 at least in the corners that we get as much of the field as possible. We have you know, we've always had a quality rating on the camera that we need, you know, an HD type camera, but it's 2024. So hopefully everything is HD at this point. And then, you know, it depends on if they have an actual production facility in the arena. So, you know, like Sioux City, I believe, and in Omaha, in Carolina, you know, they've got the Jumbotron in there. So, you know, they got a little more functionality than, you know, a couple arenas I remember that, you know, has a guy literally with the camcorder doing coaching film, and that's what they got to rely on. So that's a little bit of the challenge, but I think we've got some good facilities and, you know, we will make the most out of what we have, though, but we do have some guidelines that we try to adhere to.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic of rules
for
2024, we did ask some of our fans to come in and give us some questions. So we have a question for you from one of our fans. Dave Williams sent this in and he said, other than what you've already talked about, are there any other rule changes coming for 2024 in the National Arena League?
Really, there's no big rule changes. That was one of the things that we did have to do is put, merge the rules sets together. So, I tried to find some inconsistencies. They're very minor. I don't think they're anything that a normal fan's going to notice. Some of it's timing rules, some of it's how they place the ball, stuff like that. It was kind of interesting because it sounds easy. Just take the two rule books and put them together. One league's rule book was like 48 pages. The other one was 160. So, it's like one was a little more thorough than the other. So some of it, though, was repetitive. So it's been a little bit more of a project than I was planning on. I put some more time into that. But, overall, I don't think you're going to see any major rules. If you're coming from the arena, it's going to be a little bit of a major rule. So, again, if you're familiar with that, it's I guess the changes would be more for the arena fan. So you're going to see 2 men high motion is allowed. A linebacker always has to be 5 yards from the snap and stationary at the snap. They can be within, if you get within the goal line, they could be within that far away so they could creep up. So if they're at the 2 yard line, they could be 2 yards out, or 1 yard line, 1 yard out.
The belt.
That's gonna be most of the major stuff you're gonna see. That's gonna be the big changes. They don't have the jack in the box that you have in the Arena League, and then the Iron Man, I think, are the big ones.
Yeah.
So, former host Zach Kylan chimed in with the question: how do you intend to grow the league to maximize its potential on its assets in 2024?
No, that's a great question. And again, I think our goal is to present a very professional looking league. And I think when everything plays out after this year, I think if we have a solid outing, we're going to, along with the things that we talked about, resources, having the experience, we're going to naturally grow, is my belief. Now, we're out there. I've got people right now that are reaching out to us. We're vetting them for 2025. We've got teams in leagues that exist right now that have already reached out to us. I'll just leave it at that. There'll be more movement, I believe, in 2025. There's movement every year. And we're going to be very intentional with that movement and who we bring in. My goal is not necessarily to have a huge league. I just want to have a successful professional looking league. We obviously do have some areas in the footprint I'd like to grow, that just makes it a little bit easier for our existing members. But we're going to favor our early members, over, members down the road. We're going to make it easier for Idaho to travel. We're going to make it easier for Carolina to travel. That's our emphasis. So, we do put some work out, to get those expansions. But what I know is in the pipeline right now, I already feel pretty good about after this season.
So last year, it kind of felt like the larger market teams signed like some big stars like a week before the playoffs. And so just another fan question that we got was, will there be a signing or trade deadline this season?
Yeah, there is a deadline. It's I believe it's going to be, again, the second to last week of the regular season. There'll be eligibility requirements out of that. The NAL already had. You can't leave a team that does not make the playoffs and then go to a team that's going to make the playoffs. So you can't be released as a free agent and then come on to a playoff team. There's no reason that we would prohibit signing players late in the season that are better players. The NFL allows that right now. If you're not on a team, you can come in. So, I don't think it's as big of an issue in our league. I know there have been, players that go from, sometimes this league to other leagues. But it's not a huge issue. It's not anything that I've really heard the owners complain about or worry about too much, or the coaches. The caveat was, as I said, and the NAL already has it, is players leaving teams that aren't going to make the playoffs can't join teams then later that are. So you can't get released and then jump ship, basically.
we had another fan question from Coach Mick from our Facebook channel. This is kind of a hypothetical. This is fans being fans, dreaming of possibilities.
Sure.
Seeing that the NAL did do their rule changes, is there any potential of an NAL versus IFL national championship game?
I would not ever say never. I would just business-wise, I would not expect the IFL to have any interest in that. I'll just be honest with you. And that's not a discussion that's ever happened. So, again, I won't say never, but I don't think that's necessarily on either of our radars at this point. And one of it's going to be just season. I mean, we don't end at the same time. So just financially, you would have to, keep whoever it is going to have to keep players around for, an extra few weeks. That's just not going to happen at this point. Well, I like the idea.
That's
I'm
it for all the fan questions. But
I guessed it.
Yeah.
Right. As a fan.
I love that idea.
Right.
That's a fan. That's some Madden fantasy dreamland.
Yeah, absolutely.
Create
right?
teams and doing it. So it's actually live.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that you always hear us arguing about as fans, like who's the best team, blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's fun. But, business-wise, logistics-wise, it's a long ways off from anything that could actually happen, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I suppose.
With that, we're going to end the show here. Been on here for 50 minutes. Is there any parting words to the fans, the National Arena League, and its 8 organizations, and what you expect for the final? Well, actually, can't tell you prediction because that'd be conflict of interest. But what do you expect the 2024 season be like when it's all said and done come late July?
I actually expect this league to, be pretty competitive from what I've seen. I know fans don't like it, but there are some reasons. The transaction list is not public. You guys can probably figure out why at this point. Players are being announced by teams as they want to. We leave that up to their discretion right now. But, from what I have seen, I think we're going to have a very competitive league. That was something that, I don't think the CIF was all that competitive, to be honest with you, last year. It didn't have the parity that it had, in previous years. I think you had 2 teams that were, 0 or 1 win, so it was a difficult league year for them. I don't really anticipate that in the NAL this year. I mean, you're going to have best team and worst team naturally, but I think they're going to be excited with the parity. I'm thankful for the fans of all these leagues that have kind of combined. I know this is not the National Arena League from last year or, previous years. We've had a lot of turnover, but I think fans that like that game and that product and this brand, I hope stick around. I understand if your market's not in, it's tough to follow that. But I really believe in these owners and been very impressed with the things that I've challenged them with and asked them to do. They're very receptive and have done it. And I think in the end, it's going to be a league that I think it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise. It may take us a year to get our legs under us with the new teams and footprints or whatnot. But I really believe that, in the next year or two, and we have a little bit more growth and, all the dust settles from all this, realignment or whatever. I really believe we're going to be in a good position. There's not a lot of leagues that have longevity that, these teams have had, and there's reasons for that. And we're going to continue to rely upon that and do what we know how to do and put it, like I keep saying, it's going to be a professional product. We don't want to be embarrassed by it. That's really the bottom line on it. And we do that for the fans. And again, so the players have good experiences. So we hope everybody follows along. I think it's going to be an exciting game with the rule mix and the nets. And I'm looking forward to getting it going. So hopefully we can, chat some more during the season and we'll see where we're at, in about 2 months. But I think we're going to catch a lot of people by surprise. We may not be as flashy as some of the, other people out there, but I know it really comes down to we're going to get judged on what we put on the field. and our broadcasts and that product. And that's what we're spending our time on. And I'm looking forward to getting that out there.
No, I mean, I'm looking forward to the season, all the new teams and the new league, and just want to thank you again for your time tonight, Todd, and joining us to talk about the league this season.
I appreciate you guys taking time out to do it here, and it's coming quick. So we're looking forward to it, and hopefully we chat again.
Okay, Commissioner, stay on the line until we do the outro to the fans, to the people here watching this on Inside the Walls podcast and on the official podcast of National Arena League and on nationalarenaleague.com. At next episode, next week, we'll get into the preseason breakdowns of different National Arena League teams. We might be starting in Colorado, maybe Oklahoma. Keep your eyes on updates here on Inside the Walls podcast. I'm Jim. That's Matt. That's Commissioner Todd Walkenhorst. This is Inside the Walls podcast. This is National Arena League. We'll see you guys next week.